Hello, my Hope More family. I know I'm coming to you without many of you have any notice, but that's okay because there's a hot topic going on in our United States Senate right now, and I just had to get on to give some of my opinions and talk about some of the questions I have, particularly as we approach the second day of impeachment. So I need you to come on. Yep, come on. We're going to do a little Hope Law segment today. So I need you to take your phones and go to the Hope More page and share it to your page or share it to your group's page. Make sure that you have permission to share, okay? And that's here on Facebook. So take your phone like me, go to Hope More and share, like, and make sure that you press like that you want to be notified of all the shows. So come on. I see you right now. And you know what? I think you're going to enjoy this because we're going to be talking about the impeachment. Yeah, that very thing that's starting right now. It's around 12:18. So come on. You can do dual screens because you're going to see a lot of this over and over again, but you won't hear what you'll hear today. And also, I need you, if you're a YouTube channel watcher, go to Hope More, and that's lowercase HOPE, uppercase MORE, channel on YouTube, and click the bell to subscribe so you always hear from me when we come up or we do a live show. And you know what? This is Hope Day. We call it Hope Day on Wednesdays because there's no humps around here. And you know, a part of our desire for the Hope More channel is to definitely fight for justice, lift justice, shine a light on justice. So today's topic, I could think of no one better than to bring on one of the most fabulous criminal defense lawyers, and she's done other type of law, but one of the most fabulous criminal defense lawyers I've ever met. She and I worked together at the Conflict Defender's Office in Atlanta a few years ago, and she is just such a sharp cookie. I had to have my sister girl on today, so please give a round of applause to Camille. Ready? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I'm doing it. Round of applause. Hi, Camille.
Hello, Hope. How are you?
Fine. Thank you so much for getting on. Like, you are a true friend because I sort of like grabbed you at the last minute, but I'm so glad you were able to join me today on Hope More. I'm still trying to post to my own page because it's giving me a hard time. Yes. But I'm really hoping that a lot of people will get a lot out of today's topic. So Camille, where are you? Like, where are you practicing so my audience knows?
Metro Atlanta area.
Yeah, so we got a Florida, Georgia connection here, but we both worked in Atlanta, and I have to do this. We have to show off our shirts. Black Girls Rock, Black Lawyers Matter. We are definitely about the business of the people. And like I told you, there is a hot topic going on right now that we want to talk about, especially in light of yesterday's performance of the impeachment trial. Or I don't know if it was opening, what was it, like a preliminary? But it was a mess. For those of you who live on the back of Venus or something, our former president, Donald Trump, is being impeached for the second time. And as you know, this vote for impeachment happened right before he left office. And yesterday, or namely what he's being prosecuted for by the Senate is inciting a riot. As many of you would know, that on January 6th, during the Electoral College, it was not even a vote. It was literally a tallying of the votes from the other states to announce, the winner officially by Congress. A whole mob of people breached the Capitol, not only, came inside, but was looking for Mike Pence, the vice president, who, as you know, is the president of the Senate, talking about hang Mike Pence. And they were going to the different assembly galleries like the Senate and actually got inside and was knocking on doors and looking for people saying they wanted to execute him. And so what was crazy, right, is that they came from a Stop the Steal rally with Trump, and Trump said, go give them hell, to take back their country. And so that's what he's being accused of. And yesterday we had we had a wonderful, well, I say we had, the Senate had a wonderful representation from the prosecution side done by Representative Raskin. And then there were more than one attorneys that spoke. But on the defense side, oh my God, Attorney Castor. Attorney Castor. What did you think about the first attorney who spoke on the defense side, Camille?
He seemed ill prepared. He didn't seem to really have a focus of what his defense was going to be. And it touched on, or it appeared that he was trying to threaten re-election on some of the other members of the Congress by saying things like, well, you get reelected every 2 years for the House of Representatives. And, at the midterm elections, traditionally, it swings opposite of who the president's party is. And so right now, Democrats have control. But, you do this thing, we're going to lobby against you and make sure that you don't get reelected, which is somewhat of a veiled threat, which is not, but I believe will be appropriate. And then he just tried to do that. I'm going to suck up to the senators. Y'all are so wonderful. Y'all have all these wonderful characteristics, and we have these expectations of you. And pre-revolutionary Rome and Greece did this with the senators, and you are these wonderful people. And I know high-level thinking. It was just like, okay.
Yeah, he was like a little bit all over the place. And you know what? I was telling you earlier, and I want to share with the audience, the one thing that I thought was interesting is that, here's Trump, who's supposedly a billionaire, supposedly, and has all this money. And there are those who really sort of insulted the process by saying, you know what, he should have, or that the counselors he had, President Trump, were basically public defenders. And I was just like, wait a minute. Now, if they were public defenders, they would have done a better job. So it made me think about the show this morning or this afternoon. And the question I posed is, would former President Trump be better off with a public defender? And I should say, and other questions, because that's not the only thing we're going to talk about. But you and I had an opportunity to work for the Georgia Public Defenders statewide group. And I was like, you know what? President Trump really needs someone who knows how to defend someone, particularly if the facts may not really, really help you a lot. And I think the people who are the most expert on that are those who give themselves over to helping people out who normally can't afford them. And I was like, that particular guy, he was just so lost. He didn't know how to defend anybody. And I think it's because the law and the facts were against him. What do you think?
Well, definitely he has horrible facts. And a lot of the things that he said the Democrats were doing are exact things that his client had done prior to leaving office. So it is a challenge, as you know, when you have bad facts. So he started at that position having the bad facts. And instead of focusing on what his defense was going to be, he kind of just went everywhere. Now, the second lawyer that came up was a lot better, and he tried to narrow it down to constitutional issues. Didn't say what. That's the key. He didn't say what the constitutional issues were, but at least he tried to be a bit more focused. There was no need for the first guy to talk as long as he did. I think he talked over an hour, and he talked about stuff, nothing that was relevant. In a real world scenario, he was drawing objection after objection after objection because he seemed to be more arguing than what we normally do in opening statements.
You know, I wanted to show something real quick, and I think I can do it in a way, but I wanted to show like his first, Attorney Castor is on the defense side. And as you know, when you get up there in front of a jury, a normal jury, they're looking at you from the time you choose a jury till like closing arguments. So people think that a trial starts like today, the evidence, a part of the evidence supposed to come forth and all that kind of stuff. But it started yesterday. It started actually before the trial. And I just want you to give me some commentary on this. I hope I can do this, because sometimes I'm not the best. So I want to share the beginning few lines that he said and tell me what you think regarding maybe whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. Let's see. All right now.
My name is Bruce Castor. I am the lead prosecutor, lead counsel for the 45th President of the United States. I was an assistant DA for such a long time. I keep saying prosecutor, but I do understand the difference, Mr. Raskin. Before I begin, I want to comment on the outstanding presentation from our opponents and the emotion that certainly welled up in Congressman Raskin about his family being here during that terrible day. And you will not hear any member of the team representing former President Trump say anything but in the strongest possible way denounce the violence of the rioters and those.
Okay, so that's a little bit crazy. So what stood out to you, if anything, in his, like, this is how he approaches the Senate at the beginning of his remarks or opening?
Well, he was not polished at all. He was not prepared. It didn't seem like he practiced anything that he was going to say beforehand. It seemed almost as if it was typed out and he kind of was like, all right, I must memorize these few lines, look up and say them, and then memorize these next few and look up and say them. He should not have had the slip up of calling himself a prosecutor. He should not. I've been very fortunate, knock on wood, that I've never made that mistake of ever calling myself a prosecutor. I also will not bolster the prosecution side by saying, "Oh, that's outstanding." No. Even if I believe it's outstanding, I'm not going to say that in front of the jury, because then that gives that case more credibility, and that mine may not be as outstanding or as credible or have any merit, because theirs was the outstanding one, so much so that it made me say it. So that was a challenge for me. And then given his background as a prosecutor, it's not, no, I wouldn't have done that. I don't give my, I just wouldn't do that.
No, what I was like, oh my gosh, I know it's happened to me and I got my butt handed to me, never in the opening statement, but I'll never forget. And I don't know Camille, because Camille and I would often like second chair each other's cases. I don't know if you were there at that murder trial of the day that I was cross-examining a woman who had been burglarized and shot, but she lived, and I was in a trial for the victim who was shot during a burglary and died, and both of them had called the police. And so when I started talking to this survivor, and I called her the victim's name, the decedent's name in the case, and I was like, no, I'm sorry, Miss So-and-so. She's like, that's okay. You can call me her name because I am her. And all the women who've been, I was like, oh crap. Like those type of things like can really be used against you. And I felt like Mr. Castor, he was so willing to like think about the prosecution side that he came off as a prosecutor. I was like, you're not defending anything right now. And then for him to congratulate them on an excellent presentation, I was just like, and that's why one of the questions I asked is like, is the impeachment constitutional or a con? And it may be a con in the sense that the jury's already fixed. So it doesn't matter. They can get up there and juggle balls and they're still going to win. Or the defense side will probably still be victorious in keeping him from being convicted, unless I think some of the senators really look at this like a juror and not as a partisan. Right. What do you say? Like when you saw that, like, did you have any thoughts as to why it would be so like derelict in his duty to really be an advocate? Because he didn't sound like one.
I think part of it is the lateness that he got in the case. As the world knows, the former president kept losing lawyers. And so it was a scramble, and he was unable to get the best of the best because of the things that he did leading up to getting impeached. So he got what he got, first of all. He got what he got. He didn't get him early. He got him late. and they didn't have the ability to prepare. You know, we will get a case and begin preparing far in advance. So that when
Right.
it's time, we can dang near do it without any help from the evidence or having to show anything, because we know it, because we've had time to kind of live with it, work with it, deal with it, and prepare for it. His attorney didn't have that opportunity, and it showed a bit.
Yeah, it showed a lot. And what I was thinking, in those, thankfully, in our experience, especially working with the conflict office, we did often get a little bit more time. But I've been practicing for 20 years, and when I was in a small county, it would be nothing. It would be nothing for them to give me a case, give me very little time, and be like, start. And I was just like, why? I thought it would be better if we had a public defender, because certain public defenders, especially those who've been in the game long enough, they already have a preset way they handle certain cases, especially where the facts are so bad. Like, you go in a certain way, and he showed all his cards, and I was like, it reminded me of somewhat the Zimmerman trial. I kept thinking the prosecutors are so used to siding with the police office and not, having to prosecute them, that they're often sounding like the defense was sounding more prosecutorial, and the prosecutorial was sounding, no, excuse me, the prosecutorial was almost defending the police, because I'm like, you're so not used to being on that side. And when I was seeing him, I'm like, that's one prosecutor to another saying, oh, that's a good job. You made some points. I don't know how to get over that. I was just like, no. I think a seasoned public defender would already had their game face on, and his game face was nowhere near it. And he didn't shut up.
He
He just
didn't. He
made it
said,
worse.
he just kept going. It's like, okay, what are you talking about again? Oh, okay. What? Okay. I mean, he threw me when he got into malice murder versus just regular involuntary. I was like, wait, okay, all right. And then he went into hearsay. I was like, oh, you're back in criminal court. Okay, all right then.
No, like, Camille, it seemed like his tactic was, I'm just going to talk and not say anything, but make it seem like I'm saying something. And because supposedly he had remarks, he even admits, oh, I had these written remarks or whatever statements, but I'm going to forego that because of the presentation of this of the prosecution. That's why I guess I really admire that senator from Louisiana, who was the only Republican senator to change his vote after he heard the arguments, because he's like, the prosecution, the House managers did a great job. Yeah, what'd you say?
My home state. We finally get it together. We finally get it together.
I was like, he's taking his oath seriously. So in today's discussion about should it be a public defender, other questions, that was just a way of getting people to watch. I was just wondering though, and I may be totally putting you on the spot, how would you have even tried to start that conversation on the defense side? Can you think of some better ways, or I don't know, you see this video? Yeah. Like, how would you, I know it's hard to ever think how we could represent former President Trump, but if your primary argument is constitutionality, or in the case of this guy, you are empowered as senators to make sure that we don't use this as a political process. So whoever's in charge next time, we'll just be going back and forth with impeachments, which I think is the nicest way of saying what he may have been trying to get. I don't know. I just wondered how I would have responded. What do you think?
I would not have started like that. So I would have been more akin to the second gentleman and focus on the constitutional concerns that I have. Is this something that you can do at this time? Do you have proper jurisdiction? Do you have proper venue? Is this a case you can take up now that he is no longer president of the United States? Is this something that literally can legally be done? Not necessarily dealing with, well, you're a senator, and if you want to stay a senator, I wouldn't have done that. I'd have focused more on the legal aspect of it and said, okay, if you believe this is something that's legally you can do, what is your motivation behind it? Are you motivated because you really believe he engaged in these activities, or are you motivated because you believe it's a political thing? And if you fall on the side of the political, then you're not right and we can't do this. So I just went more akin to the second gentleman and kind of stayed a little tighter on my, hey, y'all are gonna hear this, we're gonna deal with this, be mindful of these things.
You know what I was thinking also, Camille, is okay. Well, I'm not giving it away. If you ever are a juror, what we're saying is not sacrosanct. Every case is very different. Every case is very different. But in my experience, when all you really have is sort of like a jurisdictional issue, and that's what you harp on, it's almost like an admittance that, we have no problem with the actual accusation. You just can't decide. And I'm like, and I understand it because really they don't have much else to argue, even though I understand today they're going to say, it wasn't incitement. But I was just like, I was just thinking as a public defender, when I was a public defender, how I would always try to at least make it seem very human. And he just skipped all over it, like the humanity part. And I think that's what the first guy, Attorney Castor, was trying to do. He was trying to bring the emotions less heightened, but they may have been better just starting off with the one guy and just risk, let his passion match the other passion and maybe just risk not feeling very humane about it. Because I just didn't understand why. I didn't understand how they can make any arguments without throwing in what Trump wanted, which we understand from his first attorneys. Supposedly they quit because he wanted them to argue about the election being stolen. And when these attorneys are pretty much strapped in arguing that, I don't know. My thoughts were like, you can't win. You're going to win because many of the senators won't vote against you. But when it comes to history, you're going to lose, So I don't know how I would have handled that if it was coming my way. What are your thoughts?
It's hard. It is very difficult. It is very hard to handle those types of things because you and I both represent individuals that we know are not good people. So they couldn't humanize someone when everyone knows who he is. He has made it his life's work, or his at least past 4 years' work, to be ever present in everybody's lives through social media or through the news and things like that. And so it's kind of hard to humanize someone who did these things, who incited these things, and who, when they were going on, was continuing to kind of throw fuel on the flame. So I don't think they would have been able to humanize them like we sometimes are able to do with our clients, because our clients haven't been so present in the media and so present in the lives of the jurors that they can form an opinion about the client. We're able to kind of detach them from that and say, okay, these acts are bad, but that's not who our client is. And they got to be able to prove that our client, this wonderful guy, did these bad acts. They can't do that with former President Trump because he was there.
His record's already out there. And then, and you also have the special circumstance where the jury, the Senate, are also witnesses of the incident. I'm like, this could never fly in criminal court. Like, how do you do that? On one hand, you think that would give maybe the prosecution an upper hand, but it's just weird all around. And I said I was going to ask some other questions, and I thank you for giving me your time, because I know when we get off of here, you got a million other things to do. I had some other questions that I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it. Now, I was just talking about witnesses also sitting in judgment. There is one witness that I think they need to subpoena, because I think it's already sort of over for him if the Trumpian Republican Party remains. Mike Pence should be subpoenaed to testify, because, when it comes to conspiracy and going through the acts, he's the one who was called out by the president, not just on that day, but before, and even the fact that he was there and Trump was still not calling off the mob. I just think he should be subpoenaed. What do you think about him, or even other people that you think should probably be subpoenaed, or if at all, for this impeachment?
Well, so Trump may be a good witness, but of our hostile witnesses, he may be a hostile witness, and he may say some things that wouldn't help. I would definitely subpoena some of the other individuals who are currently facing charges in other jurisdictions, because most of them say that they acted based on the words, and that's what you want to be able to prove, is these acts occur based on something that the former president did. And if these individuals tell you, hey, I watched this and he said do this and I did that because he said it, that I think is more impressive on the senators, and I think that would be better evidence, because I think Pencil might be, if not a hostile witness, a very lukewarm kind of middle of the road. He don't add nothing, but he don't take anything away. He's just kind of there.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. And everyone says, you know, you don't definitely ask questions if you don't know the answer. And if he's not pro, there's enough of other evidence to show that he was being called for to be hurt or executed or hung that day. So another question that some people have was the video, the 13-minute video Representative Raskin showed as a part of his, you know, opening in this trial. What did you think about that video? Do you think it would be just emotionally manipulative, or was it a good opportunity for evidence?
Well, you know, in our opening statements, the video wouldn't get played. That would have been an immediate objection, like, heck no, Your Honor, it's not in evidence yet. Ain't no way. But the rules are somewhat different in that venue. I think they were trying to call on more of the emotion of the people than the emotion of the senators, because a lot of the senators have made up their minds anyway. Most of the Democrats say we can impeach in this sucker. Most of the Republicans say, no, you're not. And then you have a few straggler hangovers. So I think it was more for the public, that video, than actually for the evidence and information that the Senate needed, because they know they've gotten it from their constituents. They done seen it on the news. They done heard, but they know more than we do.
Yeah, and the first day of the impeachment was so weird because it was the rules that they set to even allow the question of constitutionality be heard first and separate apart from whether or not the person was guilty, which sort of in a way mimics our motion to dismiss type of things. But why do we not have the jury in there listening? Because we don't want them to be influenced. There's information that comes out or doesn't come out is normally just, not normally, it's always just for the judge. But here we have sort of like a quasi-criminal situation. So the jury is hearing that from beat one, questions about constitutionality, at the same time, questions about the fact that this was such a momentous, horrific thing that happened. So it was just really, really weird. And I can't wait to watch the rest, or as much as I can, the rest of the trial to see how they pull up out of it. But it makes me so sad that everything's already in. Like it's just a done deal. I wish that there was a way to hold senators outside of elections accountable to not taking their oath seriously. It's like you took this oath, but you're already basically saying what you're going to do and what you're not going to do.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the only way we can check a senator or a congressperson is by to get him kicked out during the election. There's really, I mean, I guess they could potentially be exposed to impeachment. I guess, I don't know, but who's going to do that? Nobody's going to do that. And that was one of the things that Castor brought up. Is it we're gonna just impeach the world now? We're gonna impeach over here, impeach over there. No, that's not real.
We're gonna impeach Eric Holder.
Eric Holder. When he said that, I was like, what? Oh wow.
No, Camille, what about when he said, like, basically, if you're gonna, that you can indict him. You can indict him for a crime. You know, that would be acceptable. And I was like, would that be ineffective assistance of counsel if we did that? Like, you know what? Our client, you know, they didn't burglarize, but, you know, if we want to get him for murder, I don't know. I guess maybe, I know sometimes strategically, right, we're trying to argue that the person may have been wrong, like you said, done a wrong thing, but it's not what you're charging him. But it just seemed very weird. Two statements he did. One about, well, he could be criminally indicted. But then the other one was like going back to like, oh, the people decided to change administrations. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I could imagine President Trump like, no, it was stolen. The election was stolen.
Right. The administrations really haven't changed. And I mean, which is a great idea that you believe you're still president. So if you believe you're still president, then the impeachment is proper. What? Sir, pick your side. Either you're still a president or you're not. If you're going to say you're still the president, which I would have said as the prosecution, well, he says he's still the president. And you know, we all know that constitutionally, any sitting president can be brought before this body to be impeached. So if he's conceding, he's either going to concede it was a valid election, which gets us to what we wanted anyway, which is knock it off. You really lost. Concede it's a valid election, then impeachment is not proper. If you say it's not a valid election and you're still president, well, then this process is proper, and so you need to be impeached. You know, it's like you can't have it both ways.
You cannot have it both ways. You know, and I thank you for your time. I have just a few more questions, and then I'm gonna get to watching the new day of trials. But I heard, and who knows if it's true, but after we saw the performance, particularly of the first attorney on the defense side, Attorney Castor, that President Trump yelled and reamed him out.
It's probably true. You know how your former president was. It's probably true.
It probably is true. And some people say that even like his biggest holdup in getting a team was not, although it was a calculation of some people who didn't want to mess with their reputation, you know, with being on record projecting anything that's really tacitly false. But the one that has emerged since this terrible first day was like, because Trump will never take responsibility for himself, that he'll just end up blaming his attorneys and making a mockery of their reputation even more. He's not loyal to the people who stick their necks out and make themselves a fool for him if it doesn't benefit him. So I was just wondering if that was you, and well, not necessarily this situation, but have you ever had a situation where a client was unhappy as to what was happening to them, and they took the opportunity to try to ream you out and yell at you? How did you respond, and how did you handle that?
I don't want to keep this.
Okay.
Okay, so
maybe you can.
You know I have, and my personality is not as sweet as loving as yours. You know, I will get down on the level of some of my clients when necessary. So I have had a few, not many, but I think it starts from the very beginning of knowing who clients are. They knew who Trump was when they walked into this. And so if they did not get their millions of dollars up front so they could retire, then they're going to be like Rudy Giuliani, having lost credibility, having lost the ability to do a job, and then you ain't been paid for it. So if I have a client, I've had one or two that have tried to call themselves chastising me for a position that I know is not proper. I meet them where they are. I mean, I'm not going to meet them on camera where they are, but they will know in no uncertain terms that what we're not going to do is that. If you feel you can do it, then you get up here and do it. If you cannot, then trust that I know what I'm saying about the law, how it is going to be applied, and you just need to calm down. I didn't put you in this situation, but I'm going to do the best I can to protect your rights in it to make sure you have adequate representation.
Wow. Well, my last question to you, and it's sort of funny because you and I both have worked with the present prosecutor or district attorney in Leon County, which is the great Bonnie Willis. And today,
Fulton County, not Leon County, Fulton County.
Fulton. Oh, Lord, I'm in Florida. Well,
Fulton County, Georgia, baby, that Atlanta Judicial Circuit. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong state. Bonnie Willis of Fulton County.
Yes.
And today, before the hearings begin, they announced that they're investigating the call that former President Trump did to our present Secretary of State in Georgia. And the prosecutors are looking at it. And I'm like, if he has a trial in Fulton County, he needs to get a public defender. I can tell him which ones he needs to get, because I think, and maybe I'm just prejudiced, that President Trump would do well, especially with like two Black women who would be defending him. I think he would be surprised at the type of advantage I can give him, because I think we can think you know, it is, Trump is used to walking in a courtroom or a situation feeling privileged and like he's already won. And I think there's something about people of color who are defense attorneys, Black lawyers matter. We are not looking for the cheers. We are okay with sitting in there and being the only one who's for our client. And I think he needs some defense attorneys like that, public defender or elsewise. So what are your thoughts about potentially there being something in Georgia and maybe the type of attorneys that can help him out?
So one, he needs an attorney who is strong enough to let him know that he is wrong in certain situations and not afraid to lose their job or lose their reputation. He needs an attorney that would be strong enough to say, you're wrong. This is how you're wrong. We're going to help you correct it, but just understand that this is our baseline starting point. And most public defenders like us have thick skin. We're not doing it for the reputation. We're not doing it for the millions and billions of dollars, but we're doing it because we believe in the process. We want to ensure clients' rights are fully protected. And we know and we understand that we are the last line between our clients and the system. And so we take it seriously. And so he would do well with some public defenders. I know a couple, 3, 4 that I would recommend to represent him. And I would be a consultant, I would consult. I don't think I could represent him personally because he and I would not see eye to eye, and he would make that New Orleans come out of me real quick. And that would not be a pretty thing.
I don't know. I think man, he makes it tough. But as good public defenders and our time in working in public defense, a good public defender can represent anybody. Okay, it doesn't mean that the person won't be found guilty, but they can represent anybody if they found, like you said, the passion about justice. But he would have to be wrangled in because he works against that well, at least so far, it seems like he works against that principle. He leans heavily on the idea of privilege, partisanship. You take it out of a partisan situation in regular criminal defense, no wonder he's worried about New York, Georgia.
Oh, she gonna get it.
I don't know.
Yeah, the woman in New York, she gonna get him. She's going to get him.
She is going to get him. My dad's sort of convinced that nothing's going to happen. Yeah, I hope justice. I hope justice is served. When you hear about different things, including like sexual assault claims, including ideas of how the Trump organization used money that was supposed to be for a charity, for personal profit. I mean, it's like, how much do you have to do in order to be held accountable? But we'll see, because there are a lot of Trumpians who don't, no matter what he's done, no matter what he would do, are not going to ever go against him. Ever, ever. Like he says, he can go on Main Street and shoot somebody and still be elected president. We laughed at that. That. Literally, someone could come in and kill a Capitol officer or Capitol police officer, and under the name of Trump, and they're still like, well, it's Antifa and Black Lives Matter. When it comes out, no, actually, these are real Trump supporters. Oh, well, it's not constitutional. I've yet to hear anyone say that it was right. And I'm sure there are companies of people who do, but they just don't get on Facebook anymore and say that.
Your former president is like that client we always tell, stay off the daggone phone. He gets in his own way.
Stay off the Twitter. Stay off. Just stay off. But thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, Camille is awesome.
You don't have people writing me talk about Trump, because this is not that kind of party.
Oh, no. We're talking about the defense of Trump, not necessarily him. But I understand, like, this is not necessarily a partisan statement. No. I think the fact that even Trump and many of the Republican senators were absolutely appalled at the defense's opening statements or their arguments at the beginning. So, we're in good company. I don't think anybody looked at that and said, bravo. But,
no. Well, his wife man. And not his mom, because I can't do any wrong with my mom. You can't do any wrong with your mom. So his mom would have been like, you did a good job. And then his partners are like, come here. Yeah, you got to check first, because we're not going to get paid for that.
And for all of those public defenders out there who are having people say little stupid stuff like, oh, that guy must have been a public defender. No, he would never be qualified. They would eat him up in traffic court. Public defenders, especially seasoned, trained public defenders that we had the opportunity to work with and have gone on to do great things in private practice, and some staying in, or like Jonathan Rappin with Gideon's Promise, who are changing the game with not only providing education and training, continual training to public defenders, but also arguing for more resources for attorneys to have what they need to make their defense. Kudos to you, because I think President Trump would have been better off with a public defender than the attorneys he has now. But you know
Absolutely.
what? Sometimes privilege prevails, or should we say most of the time. So I guess he doesn't have to worry about that for now. You guys give my guest a clap. Thank you, Camille. We're going to have you on here again. And thank you for coming at the last minute. I hope more family that you enjoy it, whether you're watching it live now or on replay. They're coming because I think the idea of what's happening right now definitely helped expose America to the judicial system, or they think it is, but really it's not. It's a totally different thing. But hopefully you got a sense of what somebody or some other answers that people have been asking when it comes to what happened yesterday with President Trump's defense. Thank you so much, Camille. I love you, Hope More family, and I mean it. Oh, thank you, Cynthia. Blessings to you too, sweetie. Bye-bye. Okay.